welcome back to another episode of What's the Word, Eagle Alumni Spotlight Podcast. And today we are joined with Colton Campbell. And Colton, why don't you give us a little bit of background about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Abigail. So I graduated from Embry-Riddle in 2018 with my undergrad in Aerospace Engineering. I did the aero track, so focused on atmospheric vehicles. And I also graduated in December 2020 with my master's from Riddle. At the time, it was called Embry-Riddle Worldwide. Now I think it's just part of the larger integrated Embry-Riddle ecosystem. And now I'm pursuing my PhD.
That's awesome. Where are you pursuing your PhD at?
That's actually at Univeristy of Alabama. They're one of the only places I've found so far that has an online Aero PhD program. So,
Wow, that is so cool. And now, do you have a favorite memory from your time at Embry-Riddle you'd like to share with us?
yeah, so I was kind of thinking about this. I have a lot of good memories academically and non-academically, just being around so many students and friends with kind of like-minded interests and just also such a deep level of excitement around the aerospace field. But I think probably one of my favorite experiences, or maybe more than just an experience, but the highlight of my undergrad was my capstone project. Getting to work with an industry partner. I led our capstone team working with Bell, just getting to actually work on a real industry project as an undergrad student, where we got to bring together all of our different disciplines and engineering areas that we had learned through the past 3 years, and then culminate that into one project was pretty amazing. And that experience culminated with 2 patents under Bell's name, but with us listed as inventors on that, which is pretty neat.
That is very neat. So it's kind of very satisfying to tie it all together.
Yeah,
Yes.
and get a little bit of a understanding of what it looks like to actually have different teams working on one project, because in the previous parts of your education year is very segregated. It's okay, I'm learning structures in this class and I'm learning aerodynamics in this class, but then seeing how those work together to actually work on an aircraft is very neat and eye-opening.
Oh, I bet. And I'm sure it prepared you very well for your current job, right?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah. So I would say I probably have a kind of non-standard career history for most aerospace engineers. Actually, right now, my day job, I work at W.L. Gore in their medical division. So I'm a design engineer for like aortic components and different cardiovascular medical devices. And so that's been really cool to kind of open my eyes to different areas of engineering. And then coming from the aerospace industry previously, because I just started there about a year and a half ago, getting to bring in some of my knowledge and skill sets and then blend that with our team skills has been really great and has kind of led to some great opportunities. And then on the side, I actually have a engineering consulting firm that does aerospace conceptual design, and we've done some kind of early stage feasibility analysis and conceptual design for a few UAS startups, and then also some product development. And so I kind of am still pursuing that aerospace career field on the side while obviously pursuing my education. But yeah, a little bit of a non-standard approach of how I got there, and it's a long story, but it's been really great and gotten a lot of good experience to get here.
Oh yeah, that is very cool. Kind of a fun way to get to where you are now. And do you have a favorite part of your current job?
Yeah, so I guess kind of with the mix of all mostly engineering, but being in a day job of the medical industry and then side job of aerospace and product development. The medical industry and the aerospace industry are both highly regulated, so I get to see what 2 highly regulated industries look like, and they're also similar and different in those ways. But I think my favorite part of kind of the current, or the way that my career path has taken me, is just the variability, constantly getting to learn new things, and then also kind of cross-pollinate these skills from different disciplines and different skill sets to bring to my current team or my current jobs. And that's been really great, and it's kind of opened my eyes to different ways of approaching problem solving, and then also getting to bring kind of new ideas to different industries' problems.
Oh, wow. Wow, very, very cool. And then, so with your special work schedule, what does a typical day kind of look like?
Yeah, I guess it kind of goes with that variability thing. Every day is a little bit different. I do have the flexibility of working a somewhat hybrid schedule, even though I do have my primary office is here in Flagstaff. So depending on if I go into my day job's office in the morning or in the afternoon will kind of depend on when I do my side work and things like that. But just in general, kind of balancing the demands from various teams and various clients. Yeah, it just learning how to communicate effectively and how to manage your time is really important. And obviously that's something you start to learn and work on in college. I think that's kind of a great aspect of college, is having a lot of demands on your time with multiple classes at once and things like that. Kind of helps prepare you for that. I could go over what a typical day looks like, but it's kind of hard to define what typical is, so I'd be happy to do that if you'd like, or we can just leave it there.
No worries, everybody's typical day looks a little bit different, but you've given us some good insight. And now, at your current job, do you do a lot of writing?
Yeah, so a lot of writing, mostly because even in really technical, specific engineering disciplines, in today's kind of like highly cross-team and collaborative projects, you have to rely on communication as an engineer, even though some engineers think you don't have to. It's actually really important. And especially in today's kind of highly digital and distributed team type collaborative workforce, writing is really important. And so whether it be kind of direct report write-ups for cataloging projects in our quality system at work, or if it's just inter-team communications through PowerPoint, I use writing pretty much every day.
Oh, okay. And what genre of writing would you say you rely on the most?
Yeah, I think PowerPoint is probably one of our biggest tools, or just making slide decks. For me, I think it's a very approachable medium to be sharing technical information, especially when it revolves around data analysis or design decision. You can use a lot more visuals, and it's a little bit more free form in how you structure your data there. And it's a little bit more approachable too, to not overwhelm someone with a bunch of text, especially when people are busy. They don't want to really see a 3-page document coming through. They'd rather see a 3 or 4 slide PowerPoint coming through or something like that. So PowerPoint or Google Slides or any deck tools like that are probably are my most common tools.
Oh, okay. And now, did you use a lot of PowerPoint or Google Slides at your time at Embry-Riddle, or was it kind of a shock when you came to the workplace to be using this so much?
Yeah, I think most of my communication for courses and for capstone during my undergrad was definitely PowerPoint, especially when we were doing our design reviews with Bell and then internally. I think PowerPoint was the most approachable medium for that as well, especially since a lot of those were kind of live presentations and standing up and presenting the data. It makes the most sense to kind of have a static deck behind you.
Awesome. And that leads me right into my next question for you. Have you noticed any big differences between workplace writing and college writing, whether that be in your undergrad or in your master's program?
Yeah, as far as communication goes, I don't think so. I think, especially with the capstone, like I really want to emphasize how great Riddle's capstone program is, because it really kind of gives you this first taste. And it's not perfect, and it can't be, because industry projects take a decade to develop an aircraft, perhaps, whereas you have to do it in a couple of months and then detail it in a couple of months. But yeah, I think undergrad really did a great job kind of preparing me for what technical communication looks like. But a lot of that just comes through practice and real life feedback from your teams and things like that, which will obviously be expanded as you enter the workforce. So not a huge difference in technical communication or writing, but one of the biggest differences that I have noticed in transitioning, and I still kind of have my foot in both camps since I still am in education, but in education, you learn problem solving skills, but the problem typically has an answer, and there's typically a finite amount of time before you get the answer, whether it be a test or homework or things like that. In industry, your job is to solve problems that nobody knows how to solve, and there's no clear path, and no one's going to tell you how to do it. So it's your job to kind of figure it out, kind of build that roadmap to success. So it is an adjustment, because you have to learn to trust the skills you've developed and your knowledge, and then also continue to grow those skills and knowledge so you don't stagnate as the industry evolves around you.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that's part of leaving college that's often overlooked, but it's a really good thing to think about. And do you have anything you wish you would have known before you left Riddle?
Yeah, so I guess it was really hard for me, even with capstone. It's kind of hard to understand what it means to be an aerospace engineer or an engineer or whatever your discipline is. And I can't speak for all engineering disciplines, but I think aerospace engineering is unique in the sense that it's a specialized but very broad field, because within aerospace engineering you have electrical and aerodynamics and mechanical engineering and all these different things. So I wish I would have spent more time interfacing with industry professionals and kind of understanding what these different roles in the aerospace engineering field, what their day-to-day jobs looks like, and kind of where I may be interested in trying to go. You don't always have a choice in what you do for your first job necessarily, but just getting anything to start gaining experience, whether that's internships while you're in college or when you graduate, kind of seeing your first few jobs as almost apprenticeships, in the sense of you're building skills that are going to help direct your career where you want it after that. So I think with that in mind, just my biggest advice in general would be to learn to love learning, and then also learn to become a lifelong learner. I think that'll open a lot of opportunities and doors, and take your career to places you never thought before.
All right, and that was great advice. Thank you so much, Colton, and a big thank you for being on our podcast with us today. We hope you all enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for more.
This podcast is supported by the Department of Humanities and Communication at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott, Arizona. Abby Bradbury is our host, Matthew Haslam is our department chair, and I'm Amelia Chesley, Assistant Professor of Professional Writing. Find us on YouTube or reach out if you're an alumni and would like to be featured in a future episode.